Okay, for everyone that is coming in right about now, welcome. For a lot of you that are watching, obviously, welcome. For this tutorial, we're going to be going over a lot of different things, specifically when it revolves around streaming roleplay or creating content within roleplay, and how to get started, things that you would need, basically going over everything. Now, I do want to say that I want to make sure that for everyone that is watching, I know some of you are not as tech savvy, and I'm trying to keep you heavily in mind at first hand because I know there's others that are like, oh, well, this is easy. That's fine. But just for anyone that obviously might be a little bit older or just doesn't know about tech or wants to get started and doesn't know all the terminologies, I'm willing to describe all this stuff. So definitely make sure to be wary of that for anyone else that is rather tech savvy yourself and you're just like, why is he speaking like this? That's all. First off, we're going to start with the introduction. My name is Sid, or Sid Kriken. I am a content creator, one of the creative directors of WildRP, and as well too, I create content and I am a broadcaster. I've been doing broadcasting and content creation for over 10 years now. It's been a while. It's been a lot of learning and trial and error. But through this time, I wanted to at least kind of take that and use this in a proper format, so that people who want to get started rather in streaming or anything else in revolving creating content can kind of get like a basic idea. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to get into getting started. We're going to start with streaming first because obviously it's a lot more easier than doing content creation in terms of videos and other things. And we'll get into that later on within the seminar. So getting started, obviously, when it comes to streaming, you need a program. Now, the best thing that you can do is you can go and look around. There's a lot of awesome programs, but my preferable one is OBS Studio, obviously, because for one, it is free. So definitely go out of your way and download this. It is a really awesome program. I've been using this for quite some time when it first came out, and I originally used to use XSplit. That's another alternative. The only thing that is unfortunate about it is that you have to pay for it. Everything within OBS is free. It's very easy to use, and I'll be going over exactly everything that you need to kind of get started and get a basic idea of what you would need to kind of get going. But otherwise, definitely go and check it out. It's very awesome. A lot of features that will get you started to help you out into getting into just streaming in general. And it runs very light on your PC. It's not like Streamlabs OBS, which I personally will not recommend, other than if you are really getting started into streaming and you use Streamlabs for notifications or anything like that. All that's built into their version of OBS. But if you want something that's very light, very easy to use, and very simple, you could still use Streamlabs and other stuff down the line for alerts and whatnot in OBS easily. And like I said, we're going to go over that. So definitely, as I would say, use OBS Studio. Once you have that downloaded, obviously, just make sure to go through your programs and then get OBS, and it should pop up. So this is what it would look like. And this is the latest version. I think this is like 26.0.2. So this is what the latest version looks like. Before we go into it, I just want to say, I know a lot of you have different type of computers. And sometimes I may get asked questions on what kind of computer would I need in terms of getting started with streaming overall. If you do have a laptop, it may be a little bit harder depending because obviously, when you use a desktop, it's a lot more powerful. And even though there is a lot more powerful laptops nowadays, doing multitasking and stuff like that can be a little bit of a hassle depending, because Redem, which is the program you need to run roleplay, can be a little bit fickle. And I've personally seen people have issues when it comes to that. So please do bear in mind that if it does not work on a laptop, you probably have a better chance of success with at least getting some form of desktop, and that could revolve around building one or having a pre-built one, which you can get for pretty good prices depending on where you find them. But otherwise, I would say please make sure that you have a decent enough PC that allows you to both run Red Dead as itself. It's a very CPU intensive program and game in general. And if you don't know, CPU means central processing unit, which is your processor. But having a good one in your computer and making sure about that would be really, really good. And if you want to know about any of your specs, there is a lovely little thing that many people don't know, which you can type in system information, and it will tell you all the things that are a part of your PC exactly in terms of your processor, how much RAM you have in there, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't tell you on what graphics card you have. And if you want to know more about that or kind of get like an idea, there is a components area, and usually you would find it here, which is right there. Boom. So for me, I have a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. So this gives you a basic idea, because I know a lot of people don't know about like GPU, processors, other stuff. We're not going to go through everything, but this is just giving you the basic idea of what you would need if you need to figure things out down the line. All right, so moving forward, we're going to go and get everything set up. So like I said, when it comes to OBS, this is what you would normally see, which is completely blank. We're going to go through a little bit of everything. So think of your scenes as your stage, right? And your stage is what you would have as like your background, your everything, you know, what people would see. And think of your sources as like your actors, in the sense of like, you know, who you have here, your props, everything. Like I said, backgrounds, other stuff like that involved. Think of it that way. So scenes would be like the stage, which is what everyone would see, and the sources would be like the actors that are involved that are on that stage. We're just going to go with the basics. So you're going to have something that's like this, and you're going to have a scene. Best thing you could do is definitely rename it. So just right click and rename, click rename, and just name it to, we'll just say as of right now, desktop. So this would be your basic desktop scene. So right now, if you were going to stream, no one would see anything. That's because we have to add our actors. So we're going to go to sources, and we're going to click the plus, and we're going to go with display capture. Now there is a bunch of other different sort of capture devices like display, game, media, and whatnot. We're not going to go through every single one, but for right now, we're just going to go with the basics so you can get a general idea. And most of these are self-explanatory except for others. We're going to go with display capture. And obviously, as you can see, it's going to display my actual desktop, and you can choose between which one. So this is my main one, and this is what you would normally see. Now, we're going to go with game capture for a minute. Reason being is because obviously you guys are going to be streaming role play. So we're going to go to the sources, click the plus, and then click game capture. Now, you can name it, and it's going to pop up this window. When it comes to game capture, you can record or capture, as in the sense, you can capture whatever game that is in full screen mode, as you can see from the mode that is right here, right? So you can do that, or depending, you can also choose a specific window or capture foreground window with hotkey. Don't worry about the last one. That one's way more complicated. You don't need that. All you need to do is either choose between full screen or specific window. If you're having issues within full screen, sometimes capture specific window will work because you can choose the window. So it would be red M or whatever it may be. So just keep that in mind. For now, we're just going to do full screen application, and we're going to leave everything else the same. First thing you want to do is in the top left corner. I know a lot of you are going to probably say, why is it that I cannot see my game? I've selected game capture. For some odd reason in OBS, it minimizes it to the top left corner, and you can see this red dot when you click on game capture. If you click off it, you will not see it. So if you click on it, you will see it. The best way to fit it to the screen is not to manually go by and click and drag it. You can just press Control and F, and it will fit it to the screen, and then you'll be able to see the game. That's just food for thought. So I'm just helping you out there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the audio mixer. So as of right now, we don't have anything that is playing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up Redem right now, and we're just going to kind of go through the basics of it. So if I can go to my icons and show my desktop icons. All right, we're just going to go and open up Rockstar, and then we're going to open up for this one specifically, WildRP. Now that we have Redem open, there should be, there is no audio source right now, right? So let's get into that. If you go to settings and then you go to audio, you're going to want to go and choose your desktop audio. So right now, all of them are disabled. Go and click on one. Make sure that you're selecting your actual desktop audio, and that would be the default. Now, if you don't know what the default is, I will show you right now. If you go to the little arrow at the bottom right corner and you right click on the speaker, click on sound settings or open sound settings, and then click on sound control panel. If you do not see this, make sure that your window is not small because it will not show up, you see? So if you go out, you will see it then. Click sound control panel. And then from there, you want to go and scroll down, and whatever it may be that's your default, you will see a green check and it'll say default device. If it is not, make sure to click on the actual speakers, headphones, whatever it is. Usually it's Realtek. So you would find it would be like this, right? So speakers, high definition audio device, you click it, and then there should be a button at the bottom that says set default. When you click it, it will then set it as the default device, and it will show the green check mark. For us, this is what we have, which I'm using Voicemeter, which is a virtual mixer. And that's just the kind of balance sounds and other stuff that I use because of my setup. Once you have that down, then you can go and click on default, and it will set it to that default. Another thing with the mic is you want to make sure the same thing. So if you have this window open, you click on recording, and then or click on the tab in sound, which says recording. And then you have to make sure that you have that specifically set. For me, I have it set to my audio interface, which I have my mic going through right now. And that's my default. So OBS, same thing. Go to the mic auxiliary audio, the first one, and make sure to click on default. Once you're done, don't touch anything else, click apply, and then click OK. Now you can see where the audio mixer's at, that there is two channels. There is desktop audio and there is mic and aux. And when it comes to my mic and aux, obviously I'm very, very loud. So we're just going to turn that down for right now. We're going to close this, and we're going to close the sound control panel or sound settings. So as of right now, we have the OBS open. We're on the server and we have some characters, right? So what we're going to do is, for one, we're going to set up the audio to make sure that everything is sounding good. As of right now, the desktop audio is not working, and we're going to figure that one out. So we're going to make sure that I would say just disable this. It says use device timestamp. Sometimes audio will not work if you have this checked. So just disable it and then click OK. All right, so we're in game. Let me just run all the way over here into the woods. So as you can see, now the audio is working, and depending on what sound that you have that's in game or anything like that, you should be able to hear it. If you want to add any other sort of sources or anything like that, such as alerts, like I said, cam, whatever, make sure to go to video capture device. This one specifically is for your webcams, cameras, whatever it may be. You will find it here. As of right now, we don't have anything plugged in or whatnot that would kind of make that better. So we're just going to leave that for right now. But it will bring up a window, and you can choose the source and all the other goodies that go alongside with it. For most of the time, just leave everything default unless you need to change it. There is other videos on YouTube that you can find in terms of tweaking things. But for right now, we're just going through the basics. If you want to add anything else in terms of your cam, whatnot, whatever it may be, images, all that other stuff, you can always click and drag images onto OBS. Fun fact. And everything else you can just kind of layer. Whatever it is when it comes to sources, very important. If you have your alerts and they're not showing up, it is because the way that sources works, and only sources, is that if you have any sources that are below, it's only going to read it from top to bottom. So whatever is on top is the most important, which is going to show first. Make sure that your alerts are above. Then they will show. Otherwise, for right now, we could just kind of close that out because we don't need it. Next, we're going to go into quality settings. This is very important because obviously quality is everything. Now, I can understand that not everyone has the best internet or the best computer. And depending on the settings, I'm going to go through the majority of them to give you a really good general idea of what would fit for you best. Now, if you want to go for your settings, make sure to click on the settings tab that's here, or you can go to file and then settings. Best thing you could do, there's a button right there, just click settings. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to first go to stream. This is where you would connect to the service. So depending on the majority of you, you're going to be streaming either on Twitch for the most part. Otherwise, if you're not, you can always click the service and you can go for YouTube, Facebook, Restream, Twitter, Periscope, whatever it is. You can do that and then just leave this on auto. Make sure to connect your account specifically for Twitch. There is a button for that. It'll pop up. It'll say, you know, to sign in, and then they'll give you a code and everything as well too. Below it says enable bandwidth test mode. What you want to do is only tick this when you want to just try out the bandwidth or test of your internet for a normal stream. If you do not have this on, if you're just wanting to test your internet to see if your stream is stable, you will literally start streaming and you'll probably freaking out as of like, why am I live right now? Just fair warning, be aware of that. Bandwidth test means that you are not fully going live on Twitch and you're only testing and sending it to Twitch's servers just to see the stability of your stream, okay? Once that's all connected and all this other stuff will pop up, you'll probably get like panels that'll show like chat and other things. Just make sure to close those out and then come back here and you should be good. Next, we're going to move to output. Now, this is very important because this is where bitrate and other things come into play and what you should use in terms of inside of your computer. Video bitrate is very important because according to Twitch, depending on what you have for your internet speeds, the best thing that you can do is if you have a stable internet connection, you should be good. And I know sometimes internet does fluctuate. The best thing you can do to find out on the stability of your internet is to go to speed test. This is where you can go and check out all your speeds and everything and see what's going on. And definitely use this day by day, depending if your internet is having trouble or not, if you're streaming or not. What you're going to worry about is your upload speed. Your upload speed is very crucial because it is the make or break if your stream is going to look good or not look good, or if your stream is going to even work for the day. The bitrate is at the moment 2,500 kilobits per second. Now, if you don't know, that is 2.5 megabytes. Think of kilobytes as 2,000 as 2 megabytes. Okay. So if it's 1,000 kilobytes, it's 1 megabyte, et cetera, et cetera. For us, this is what we have at the moment because it's a fresh slate. So best thing you can do is if your upload, which I said you can go to speedtest.net or whatever else they use. If your upload is above or at least 5 megabytes, you should be totally fine. If it is under 5 megabytes, you might have a little bit more of a harder time streaming. Now, I know some people may not have this, and it's going to be a lot harder, hence why we're going to go later on into creating content, because you don't have to worry about using your internet constantly unless you're uploading videos. The best thing you can do is if you do have bitrate, in terms of upload, if you have upload that is at least 5 megabytes or more, you can go up to 6,000 kilobytes per second, okay? Which is 6 megabytes. This is the furthest you can go if you're not partnered or if you're an affiliate or not an affiliate, okay? Once you're an affiliate, you get quality options. You probably don't have quality options, and it's probably going to be a lot harder if you're streaming very, very high in quality because not everyone's going to have good internet. For everyone else that does not have internet that is from 5 or below, the best thing that you can do is stay at 2,500 kilobits per second, okay? If you really want to test it, you can go to even 3,500. That still should look pretty good. And in terms of games like Red Dead, it's not too fast-paced or hectic, but it will still look a little bit blurry. The thing that matters is that if people can see it and the stream looks clear and good, that's all that matters, as long as it works with your setup and connection and internet. Next, we're going to go into Encoder. This one is very important because I know for a lot of people, depending on who you are, you're probably going to be using software, and that's your processor or your CPU. Now, when you're streaming and gaming at the same time, it is very, 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 very hard depending on what you have in your computer. And I already described early on what you can, where you can see what kind of processor or graphics card that you have in your computer at the moment. Google and do a little bit of research behind just watching videos on how it works overall, because every single one of them is different and they're going to work differently. So for software, you're going to be using your processor or your CPU. This will cause a lot more stress on your computer because, for one, Red Dead is very CPU intensive, and the same thing is with RedM. If you are streaming and you're using this at the same time as you're playing RedM, you're going to be using a lot of power on your computer with the processor alone. Now, one way to fix this is that a lot of people have decent to good graphics cards. Depending on what it is that you use, for me, I have an NVIDIA graphics card. So for anyone that doesn't know, green graphics card, red graphics card are different. Another good example, NVIDIA GeForce, RTX, GTX, those sort of terminologies that a lot of you guys have heard of. You would want to click this and go to hardware. Now, for anyone that has the red graphics card or Radeon or anything, this will be completely different. This should be Radeon's hardware encoding. You would want to go with hardware. So obviously, I do have a decent graphics card. I have an RTX 2060 Super. I'm going to put it to NVENC because my graphics card is going to be encoding the majority of the stream. And that's what I want because for me, at least, that allows me to take less stress off of my computer to do two things on one computer at the same time. Everything else, you could just leave the same. You can even go into enable advanced encoder settings. That is totally fine. If you do ticket, it will give you some options. So if you're a little bit more on the quality side, just click it and then we'll go through this right now. Make sure to untick enforce streaming service bitrate limits. Just turn it off. It's basically gonna, in a sense, like dim down or remove certain settings from your stream to make sure that it's running well on Twitch. Everything that we're running is fine. Everything's gonna be different. Don't worry. If anything messes up, you can always change it or switch it later. But otherwise, untick this. Now, if you're using your graphics card, depending on what kind of card it is, this is probably gonna be different for you, and the encoder preset's gonna be different for you. For NVIDIA cards, these are the presets. The best thing you can do is if you have an NVIDIA card and it's not that great and you're lagging or having issues when you're streaming, put this down to possibly performance or max performance. It's going to look a little bit more blurrier, but just play with the settings and test things out. For right now, I'm just going to go with quality. I could go to max quality if I want to, but I'm not going to do that. There's also an advanced option. This one is a little bit more complicated because you're going to be going through a lot more different things. But I would still go through this over this anyways. Same thing, encoder. We're just going to put to NVIDIA NVENC, which is the hardware encoding. Make sure to untick this. And the rescale output, do not do anything with that. Leave that alone. Rate scale, we're just going to use CBR. And for us, we're just going to say, for example, which would be 3,500 kilobytes or 3.5 megabytes. Leave the keyframe interval to 0. The preset, you can change this again, depending on if you're lagging or not. Just going to keep moving so we don't get kicked here. Sorry. But yes, we're going to do that. Profile, just leave it to high. Look ahead, leave that alone. Psychovisual tuning, just leave it alone. If you're lagging a little bit, you can always just manage to turn it off. It even tells you exactly what it does if you hover over it. But we're not going to worry about that for right now. We're just going to leave all this alone. GPU and max B frames, just leave that alone. Click apply, and we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the video. So if you click on video, you will have a base canvas and an output canvas. The base canvas is what OBS is seeing, okay? The output is what is being streamed to Twitch, YouTube, whatever it is, right? So depending for a lot of people, usually having the base canvas at 1080 can be straining on your computer. And if that is an issue, you can always go down to 1280 by 720. Now, fair warning, if you do manage to get a better computer and you down the line want to bump up this setting, it's going to resize everything and make everything bigger. So I'm going to show you a good example. I'm going to put the base canvas to 720p and I'm going to click apply. You can see that my game is now way bigger than what it is. It's because the whole thing was just resized. Sorry about that. So fair warning, it's going to resize everything if you're doing it from smaller to bigger or bigger to smaller. So just keep that in mind. If it looks a little weird, that's probably why. For right now, we're just going to leave it to this one. And as you can see, it completely changes. The output is exactly what you would see in a stream. So for a lot of you that are not really aware or know, please do not stream at 1080p if you are not partnered. One of the many reasons I say this is because, for one, at least think about the people that are watching you. Some people do not have the internet if they're watching mostly on mobile, and that leads to a lot of buffering. So if you want to kind of prevent that from happening, the best thing that you can do is turn this down from, originally it'll be here, it'll be 1080. You turn this down to at least 720, or even better, you can even go even lower. There's a whole bunch of other different options. Obviously the quality is not going to be as great, but definitely keep it in mind depending on what computer you're using. If it's powerful, if it's not powerful, there's a bunch of other options. You do not need to use 720p. You can use 480p or 540p if you want. They're all the same thing. They're all widescreen. Next is downscale filter. This one is just, I guess, the sharpening and what it might be. Just leave this one as bicubic. You don't really have to change this one. You might notice a little bit of a difference, but otherwise, when people are mostly watching you, as I said, they're not really going to notice too much, especially if it's in 720p. So leave that alone. And next is the FPS. For a lot of people, I can understand. If you can run it at 60 FPS, go for it. If you cannot, run it at 30 or run it at 29.97. Sometimes results may vary, but for us, we just have it at 30, and that's why you can see it in the corner here. It says CPU, and then it says FPS. So after you're done with that, you're going to click apply. We're going to go into the bottom right corner. So for a lot of people, this is going to be the basic information that you will need to understand if you're live, how your connection is, or anything else. So for right now, we're just going to go and I'm going to enable bandwidth mode, and we're going to do a little bit of a test so you can see an idea. So right now, it's going to tell us that we're in bandwidth mode, and this only allows for just network testing. You're not going live or anything. It's just to see the stability of your stream. So we're just going to say yes, and now we're streaming, right? As of right now, you can see on the bottom right corner, it shows you the kilobytes per second. So for right now, we're running around like 4.1 megabytes to 3.1, which is good. As long as this is green, you are fine. If this goes to yellow or orange or red, there may be issues that are happening, and it is an internet issue. Best thing you could do is sometimes just stop streaming, then go to settings, go to stream, and then change the server. If that's still an issue, sometimes it's just your own internet, restart your router, your modem, whatever it may be. That usually fixes that as well too. So as you can see right now, it shows that my processor is 1.7% being used. And that's because I'm only using my graphics card. Now, if I stop streaming, and we're going to switch over to the processor, I'm going to show you guys right now. This is X264. That's your processor. Watch how it bumps up to even higher because I'm using more. So as you can see, it's going up a little bit more now. So we don't have too much going on, but if you do have a lot of things, like you have a camera, images, whatnot, you're going to be using a lot more of your processor. The highest that we got was around right there, 7.98. So just bear that in mind. If you have a lot of stuff in terms of sources, it has to go and render those things so that you can see it on the stream. So that's very important to make sure to be careful if you're going to use this or if you're using your graphics card. Most of the time, use a graphics card, call it a day, don't worry. Unless you have a very powerful computer, then you could go to the other one. But on a complete single computer, just go for the other option. All right, so we're going to go back to this again. As you can see in the bottom right corner, it says 30 FPS. Now, this is the preview. So for people that are seeing your stream while you're live, or even the preview that is here on your screen, what OBS sees, that is the frame rate. If that starts to drop, one of two things could be happening. Either one, the canvas, which is what you're previewing, is too big, or two, your computer is having issues rendering what it's seeing in the game, okay? There's many different things that could go by when it comes to this, so please be aware. Sometimes it requires you to turn down your in-game settings to run it properly because you have OBS, you have the game, you have other stuff that's going on. Think about that for a minute, at least. You know, you're not going to be able to run everything on ultra while streaming, while, you know, having other programs open, okay? So these are the other things I hear. There is a recording section, but we're not recording. And then there is a live section. When you are live, this will turn blue. This will tell you how much time that you've been streaming. For us, it's been 1 minute and counting. To the left, you have dropped frames. For anyone that doesn't know about this, this specifically means what it means. When you're streaming, you start dropping frames. So that means that your stream starts to lag, it starts to jitter and other things. I can't really emulate that right now because obviously my internet is decent enough. Nice flex. But you will tell by how much frames are dropped and the percentage to the right of it. That just tells you how much of a chance it is that you're going to be dropping frames. Sometimes it could go from like 2% to like 50 to 80%. That means that your internet is really, really having a hard time trying to stream. Otherwise, you can stop streaming. Next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to talk about microphones. I get asked a lot of questions regarding around what kind of microphone should I use for roleplay? Is this microphone good enough? Or is that microphone good enough? From what knowledge I've accumulated, you can actually get really, really good and decent sound from some very cheap and great mics, you know? So the best thing that you could do is obviously, for one, headset mics, some of them are good. The best thing you can do is research. So go online, Google, YouTube, whatever. Search up how the mic sounds. This is your best friend because it's going to determine if you're spending it right or if you're just wasting your money. The types of mics that you will come across are two types. You're going to come across USB, so that means that ones that you can directly plug into your computer, and XLR. These are completely different mics and require other pieces of hardware that can then get sent into your computer. One of those things that I have is called a USB audio interface. You can search these up. You can definitely get these cheap as well too. Depending on what it may be, you could still get some really good quality from some awesome USB mics. And some that I can recommend are the MXL for XLR. Audio Technica has some really good USB and XLR microphones. Hypercast, I think it's Hypercast. That's a very popular one. Very, very good. A lot of great features on it. It's depending on what it is exactly or what you can afford. So definitely keep that in mind. We're going to be talking about the sound and how to get it right in OBS. So one of the bigger things, as you can see, is that I have my mic and my aux down because my mic is very loud. And as you can hear, it sounds fine now, but in OBS, it could be extremely loud, and that's okay. I have it running through something else that caused it to turn it down so that it's leveled. But for OBS, it's taking it directly from my interface. If I turn this all the way up, you can see that I am peaking. I am literally peaking very, very, very hard, and we don't want this. So best thing you could do is if you right click on the cog and you go to filters, a new window will pop up. Make sure to click on the plus in the bottom left corner. And then from there, what you want to do is you want to click on either compressor or limiter. Now, if you don't know what any of these are, compressor is what it means. It basically compresses the quiet sounds and the loudest part of the sounds so that they're leveled. And this could be really good and really bad depending on what it is that you're doing with it. So for right now, my microphone's already compressed, and that's fine. It's just really loud. So the best thing that we can do is put on a limiter, and that's going to limit the amount of sound to a certain level. So we're just going to name a limiter. We're just going to keep it normal. And this is what we have. So as of right now, as you can see, it's still peaking, and that's the issue. So we're going to go and turn down the threshold a little bit more. And as the more I talk, you can see that it's going down more and more and more and more and more and more and more. This is very exaggerated. No one's going to be able to hear you. So make sure to go and put this all the way to the right until it starts to at least hit a little bit more into yellow. Yellow is good. Green is perfect, but they may have a harder time hearing you. As long as you're not hitting the red, you are fine. You are good. It may sound that you are distorting, even though that you have it limited. You can say, hey, my microphone sounds very loud. It's like crackly and everything that's going on. Depending on what it may be, you also have on your mic, depending on your mic, you have a physical knob which you can turn down the volume on your microphone that it's sending to your computer or your interface or anything. Usually they have knobs on the interface itself. But if you do not, there's a great thing, which is if you go and click on the bottom right corner and the arrow, you right click on sound. If you open your sound settings, you go back to the sound control panel, as we said before, you can go to the microphone of your choice that you're using. Specifically for me, this is my audio interface. And you can go right click on it, go to properties and go to levels, and you can turn this down. This would be the best thing that you could do, and you could turn it down here. So let's say that you're like peaking really loud, and we'll say that this is in red. So the more that I turn this down, obviously the quieter it's going to get. You'll be able to do that, and it'll save you way more of a headache than anything. We've gone through the basics of everything that is here. Just make sure that you have the right settings, okay? Definitely research. Research is very important in terms of the parts that you need to get started when it comes to streaming, the microphone that you may need when it comes to streaming and creating content and role playing, because that's a very crucial part, is using your voice for playing your characters. The next thing that we're going to go on to is videos and content creation. So for right now, we're going to go and close out of OBS. What software to use? The software that you want to use at the moment, your best bet. I know a lot of you are not able to possibly afford the higher end stuff like Adobe Premiere Pro or anything like that, or you just want a quicker way to get started and an easier way to get started. So the best result, and what I use personally for my own videos, is Davinci Resolve. This is by far one of the best free video editing programs that you can find on the internet as of right now. This thing is absolutely wonderful. I love this program very much, and I use it for almost everything. If you want to get into video editing, if you want to get into effects and other stuff like that, this is a perfect program because this is all in one. You can color in it, you can do effects in it, you can essentially make a really good video with just everything inside of this. And as I said before, it is free. There is a free version, and then there's the $300 version. The only difference between the two, which you have to scroll all the way down because they show all this other cool stuff, is the studio version of the program comes with a lot more of the things that the professionals need. With the regular version, you can still do visual effects. You can still cut, edit, green screen, motion graphics, all this other stuff that you can use that you would get in a program like Premiere Pro, but for free. I do not have this program on this computer necessarily, so I can't show everything, but I would just say definitely download this program. It is 100% worth it. Again, it's free 99. Everyone loves things that are free. So definitely get involved and definitely get started using this program. Going into how to create RP content. This depends on what kind of RP that you like to do. Role playing is a form of storytelling. That's all it truly is. It's telling a story about characters, getting into those characters, and getting involved into other people's stories and meshing. There's a lot more that goes with it, obviously, yes, of course, but it always comes down to that alone, is almost like telling a story, in a sense, from a different person's point of view. You have many different options. You could be someone who plays characters that are rather scary, so you can create like a horror type of RP, or someone that's more into just being goofy, so you can create like more of like a funnier type of RP because that resembles or resonates with your characters that you play. For me, necessarily, what I like to do is I like to create stories using those different characters. And for Redem, we're going more of an old Western type. So think of it as a lot of the old Western films and movies. And I keep that sort of same aesthetic alongside with Red Dead and other different things that kind of help with that. And I will actually give you an example as of right now. What I like to do is I like to have like an introduction to something that happens within the video. So there's always like a form of starting, like it's starting of a film, and then it gets involved with what's happening. So a very common thing that I like to do is I like to go and have this like Red Dead style kind of splatter, and then it just says the name of what's happening. This I've also created within Davinci Resolve with only 2 or 3 things. So in that program that I just said was free, you can do the exact same thing I'm doing right now. And on top of that, then I proceed to go through and role play my characters, kind of tell the story through what it is that they're experiencing during that time. All I have to say is that you don't need the most expensive stuff either. You don't need the most expensive mic or computer or anything. if you can work with what you have, use that to the best of your ability and use that to get started on either just streaming or creating content. If you can't stream, because obviously it's a lot more taxing on your computer. So I hope that a lot of you guys, if you're in the Discord, definitely enjoy that. We're going to be going to questions, but that's not going to be recorded in this video. So thank you very much for watching this. If anything, definitely share it with a friend, even if they don't play on here and they just want to get started with creating roleplay content overall. The majority of this should be very, very, very helpful and just getting involved and getting started and finding where to start in general.